Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm very pleased to be here. My name is Nicole Benjoy. I'm the COSIA Secretary General, and today your moderator for the breakout session that is going to focus on digital health and health data. Very happy to welcome all of you in this session. Of course, virtually is not as good as if it would be giving an opportunity for networking as well, but technology shows that it works, and let's use to the benefit of our big event today. I'm sure you all appreciated the plenary part just before coming into this breakout session. And as I said, I will be moderating this session that is going to focus on digital health and health data. I'm the chair of the working group under the EU Health Coalition, focusing on digital health and health data. So first of all, I would like also to introduce the topic and to announce the speakers. I would like to remind you that Q&A will be available, and that you can use also polls in Slido to do so. What will happen during this breakout session, we have a short agenda, and I will explain you in a minute how this is going to be organized. And we'll be also asking speakers when we will move to the speakers to activate the camera. So I'm very pleased to let you know that we will start our breakout session after I will introduce all the speakers with a keynote from Kerry Thompson from the European Commission. And after that keynote, we will move to perspective from different panelists. In the panelists, I'm also very happy to have Dr. Silvano Coletti, followed by Godfrey Schuschnuggu from the European Patient Forum, and followed by Marcus Zimmermann, who is the COSIA Chair of Digital Health Committee. So there will be, of course, in order to make sure that we have interactions with all the participants, we will have Slido that will give you an opportunity also to be part of it. So as you may have seen, we published 3 specific recommendations that we're going to focus on. And of course, the great opportunity today is to also get spontaneous feedback from all participants on those 3 recommendations. The first recommendation is accelerate the creation of a European health data space. The second recommendation that we put together as a coalition is to ensure e-health interoperability across the continuum of care. And the third recommendation is going to be on establishing an ethical framework for artificial intelligence that is both flexible and specific to the healthcare sector. So I believe that now we will go into a slide. So we went into the slide 2 announcing the speakers, and now there will be under Slido running in order for you to explain what type of organization you are representing. So while you will be answering to, of course, very important that all together that we make sure that at the end of this breakout session, we have let's say we try to come to a consensus on what are the actions and the priorities in order to really move into an action plan. And action, let's say, how can we scale up those recommendations and go for pragmatic implementation. So I might be a little bit ahead of time in terms of timing, and but then if our technical team is okay, I would like to move and to give the floor to Kerry Thompson to give us the keynote speech. Thank you, Kerry, for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. It's really great pleasure to be joining you at the EU Health Summit. GG Connect, very happy to have this invitation to speak to you today. I think you're controlling my slides, or you're controlling my slides. Yes, so, well, I think just quickly first to remember, well, the overarching goals for what we're trying to do in digital health and care in the EU. And I refer you back to the communication that the Commission issued in 2018, where we set out fundamentally three broad objectives. Firstly, about why we work in this area. Well, it's about improving the health data picture for citizens and patients. It's about improving the quality and the accessibility of health data that we can use to support the development of digital technologies, tools, and services that will usher in a new era of prevention and diagnostics, clinical support tools, medicines such as personalized medicines, medical devices, and so on. And then it's also about supporting the integration of these services and tools, supporting their innovation, and then supporting their integration into our existing health care systems so that we can really get better outcomes, better health outcomes, and more sustainable health and care systems, whether it's through tools that are going to make the health systems more efficient, such as maybe using AI for supply chains and distribution systems, or whether it's ensuring that patients only receive the medicines that really fit with their precise disease profiles, and or maybe enabling patients to really be monitored remotely more systematically and better anticipation of the need for an intervention, and so enabling them and their clinical teams to keep ahead of conditions. There's so many ways that we can imagine this will help health and care systems. And of course, COVID-19 has been a very powerful real-life scenario to see how the use of digital health and digital tools are strengthening health systems in a pandemic situation. So, Commissioner Kyriakides, to do all the above, we have to develop the secure accessibility of health data, and that's why the President of the Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, tasked Commissioner Kyriakides to lead on the creation of a European data space. And at the same time, Thierry Breton, Commissioner for the Internal Market, is leading on the digital and industrial policy. He is also very engaged, recognizing the role and the opportunity this gives for European innovators to create the new digital tools and the services that will need to be developed and trained on health data. If you just, I think, jump ahead to a couple of more slides and to the next one as well. That's great. The next slide too. That's brilliant. So, I mean, there are a number of foundational technologies, the use of which the EU must develop, and GG Connect is very engaged in this effort alongside health data in order to have, for example, the ability to analyze large amounts of data. So this includes, for example, high-performance computing, artificial intelligence, of course, the rollout of 5G networks, which is going to really support the overall connectivity and create an Internet of Things for health and care, which has its potential to create a more joined up set of medical devices that can support our monitoring and management of ill health. And then there are also the technologies that will interface with the person, the health app, the wearable devices on which these may sit, the telehealth app through which you can stay connected with your health and care team. And what's critical is that these innovations are tested on reliable data for entry onto the market. And this data needs to be of sufficient volume and sufficient quality, and it needs to be portable. It needs to be shared between different environments, between the health center, your smartphone, and it needs to be interoperable, and it needs to be secure in its exchange. So to get from here to the future, we need to overcome a number of challenges. So these challenges, well, they're very generic to all kinds of data, but I mean, health data is very particular, being very sensitive. The trust issues, the issues around data protection, the privacy, the security aspects are of course, of utmost importance. So, well, first of what the challenges are that we want to be efficient. There's a lot of data out there that's held by public authorities. We need to be able to increase what we can reuse and to make sure that it is reused, make sure the incentives are in place within organizations or with companies that they will share their data and not have it languished unused somewhere. And we need to know that we need to increase them, improve the ability of actors across health and care systems to be able to cope with the new demands on data processing and the data storage to meet new investments. And this is going to have to take place wherever data across health and care systems is collected and digitized. And of course, we need to address the governance issues, critical for health, which we've discussed, and we need to boost the digital skills and literacy to expand the skill set of clinical professionals. But also, if we want to really promote the ability of people to use their health data, then and to put in place healthy behaviours on the back of it, for example, then we need to boost the literacy of people at population level generally, and this will be key if we want to get real user empowerment in the health and care sphere. So the EU health data strategy that was adopted in 2020, if you go to the next slide. So this aims, of course, to address these challenges and to further report and to make the EU very much a leader in a data-driven society. And the idea is really to create a single market for data so that it can flow freely within the EU and across sectors and be used and be of benefit where it's valuable to citizens, to public administrations, to researchers, to innovators. And to do this, we really need to, what the data strategy addresses is the importance of setting clear and fair rules on the access and reuse of data, the importance of investing in the next generation of tools and infrastructures to store and process the data, joining forces on key infrastructures around Europe to really boost cloud capacity, particularly European cloud capacity, linking or pooling the European data in the key sectors that we're talking about to create these common and interoperable data spaces, and in all of these to give the users in these data spaces the rights, tools and skills that they can use to stay in control of their data. So for each data space, it's going to be important to address these challenges mentioned earlier. And the character of the health data space is particularly important, as we've mentioned. So it's critical to ensure that the approach we're taking, that countries are developing and the EU is developing for exchanging health data is very much secure, data protected, and ensures privacy. And it's very much that they're designed with citizens at the centre. And this health data space will support, for example, primary uses, what we're calling primary uses for the citizens themselves or for their clinical teams. It'll support policy makers, administrators in health and care, and also, of course, critically for secondary uses, for research and for innovation purposes. And the strategy proposes that citizens should be in control of their personal data, and that means creating systems through which people are able to give their consent for their data to be shared, and that once it's shared, once it's being used, that we know that our data is being used in a way that's ethical, and that should we wish to, that we can withdraw our consent if necessary in the future. So the first step in all this is investing in the digitization of data in the first place, the upgrading of the capacity of the health and care systems to store and process the data, whether it's the putting in place across hospitals and healthcare clinics the right IT capacity, the right cloud storage tools, skilling up the health professionals, and critically getting the data in the right volume and quality. And the critical aspect will be to make the data interoperable, and within the overarching framework that we already have around GDPR, e-privacy and cybersecurity, to also consider specific governance for the health data space. And as anticipated in the data strategy, the Commission intends to shortly come forward with a Data Governance Act that will encourage member states to put in place health data-specific governance arrangements, as some countries are already starting to do, notably Finland and France, for example. And of course, at the other end, at the more kind of bottom-up end, we have to work on the different kinds of health data as well. I mean, firstly, of course, there's the need to digitize the data across the board. And then there's the actions we need to take to link this data up and create kind of trusted health data sets, which requires actions both within the member states and across the borders to create the volume. And to create data sets that have the right quality, that have the right representativeness, for example, of the whole EU population. So kinds of data that we're working on with our colleagues across the mission, of course, particularly DG Santé, colleagues in DG RTD, is the work on creating trusted data sets around electronic health records. Of course, this work is the work of making the data securely exchangeable and setting up the infrastructure to share the data is taking place under the My Health at EU project. That is we're starting to see data shared in domains such as patient summaries and e-prescriptions. There's also a lot of work to link the different disease and patient registries across borders. There's the work of the 1 Million Genomes Initiative, where the Commission's working with member states. It's a voluntary initiative where countries have signed a political declaration in 2018, where the aim is to make 1 million genomes available by 2022 across the EU, securely accessible, and to scale this up for 2025 and have 10 million genomes accessible by 2025. As we've seen during the COVID pandemic and with the emergence of mobile apps for contact tracing, and the Commission and the Member States have worked very closely on these. And the critical nature of these apps is that they're voluntary in nature, they're privacy preserving, they're interoperable, they can be used by citizens as they travel across the EU. We also have at the moment Horizon projects ongoing that are now exploring how to develop repositories of anonymized cancer images, and we can envisage scaling these up if they're successful at a later date. And I think what's noticeable, talking about governance of these actions, is that the different kinds of health data themselves have their own specificities, and we're trying to set up processes, systems that will see these data sets linkable and securely shared. There are different actors involved in each, and they may require their own particular sets of tools when we come to create specific governance. So, as I mentioned earlier, what's absolutely critical is the data needs to be interoperable. This means, what does interoperability need? Interoperability needs EU common technical specifications for how data is exchanged. And to this end, the Commission had adopted a recommendation in February 2019 on the European Electronic Health Record Exchange format. And this is supporting the work with member states, building on what's already been done with patient summaries and e-prescriptions, where we have technical specifications in place, and then proposing the next set of health domains to work on lab tests, hospital discharge letters, and medical images. And to make progress on this, a Horizon 2020 project was launched just last month called XE Health, and this will do the very labour-intensive work of bringing together the clinicians and the ICT specialists in member states, alongside the other key stakeholders, including innovators, colleagues from the health tech community, to develop the specifications. And that process, with the involvement of the right stakeholders, is critical to get the buy-in, because at the end of the day, to be fundamental that we need to see uptake of these technical specifications. They need to be used if we're going to see true interoperability being achieved. So finally, let me just say a quick word about the accessibility of health data. So here, the Commission is proposing the creation of large testing and experimenting facilities. And the idea here is these would be technical infrastructures that would have specific expertise and experience of testing mature technology in a given sector. We're looking at this across the range of sectors. And critically, as just prior to launch on the market. So we're looking at using these infrastructures to test innovation under real or close to real conditions. So with links to perhaps smart hospitals or real life home settings if you're testing sensors, for example. And the idea is that these would be facilities through which researchers and innovators could access the health data that they need to support the development process of a particular innovation, whether it's a clinical decision tool or a tool using imaging for diagnostics or tools, yes, as I mentioned, such as sensors, and in order to smooth their introduction and their integration with health systems. And of course, as with all access of health data issues, the key aspect is trust. So here we're looking at exploring techniques and infrastructures that will enable health data to be, again, accessed in a way that citizens can trust. Perhaps it's through anonymization techniques, or we have had in the past projects looking at synthetic data, and so on. So that was just a rapid run through. Thank you again very much for asking us to speak here, and very looking forward to joining the panel in a few minutes. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you. Thank you so much, Kerry, for being with us and for explaining what the European Commission is doing, and you are very active, definitely. Of course, digital has shown, as it was mentioned also during the plenary, that it's even more important, even in the case of COVID-19. I've seen, for example, as I'm French, that teleconsultation has been crazy increasing during the confinement, as well as these days now, because several of our EU countries are also facing some issues with a possible second wave coming in. So, which shows obviously that it is very critical that digital health continues to scale up and implement. So I believe all the overview that you've given shows how busy you are, and hopefully with your help and with also a right implementation and scaling at a country level, it will make a difference, yeah? But you stay with us, Kerry. I don't know, technical team, if we have any immediate questions for Kerry. So, no, so I believe then thank you very much, Kerry. I would like to introduce now and give the floor to Dr. Silvano Coletti, and please thank you very much to activate your camera and say next when you want to move to the next slide. Thank you so much, Silvano.
Thank you very much. Very happy to be here. Thank you for the participation to the EU Health Summit. So yes, my name is Silvano Coletti. I'm the Chief Executive of Chelonia Applied Science. Chelonia is a next-gen translational science company located in Basel, inside the innovation office, and so the compound of the University of Basel. We support academia, research centers to enable the use of scientific discoveries, both in fundamental research and in applied science. And at the same time, we promote the use of technologies among the industries and governmental organizations. So as you can see today, I'm here, yes, as a Chelonia, but at the same time as a project innovation manager at Escalate for COV. And let me say something before the introduction of Escalate for COV. As of today, we as Chelonia and all the partners of the consortium that we are going to introduce, so we are engaged, of course, in several multi-field projects, but we as Chelonia, in the fight against coronavirus, we are deploying the best we have here in Europe, and top scientists, technologies, and innovation-driven mindset to imagine new solutions. And we are collaborating with over 100 top-ranked research centers. And to join project Escalate for COV, that is a private-public consortium supported by the European Commission is really, for me and for Kelonia, a remarkable success. So yes, next slide, please. So Escalate for COV, as I said, is a private-public consortium. Escalate means exascale smart platform against pathogens for coronavirus. So I think that what I'm introducing today is an excellent showcase of what artificial intelligence and high-performance computing can do in urgent cases like pandemics, but also in some other conditions. So the objective of the consortium is to identify molecules capable of targeting SARS-CoV-2, develop effective tools to counter future pandemics, and, as I said, exploit the European supercomputer capabilities. We started to work last April. This is a project with a lifetime of 18 months, is an answer to an emergence call of the European Union with the program H 2020, and we are 18 partners from 7 countries. So next slide. So we prepared an animation. With this animation, we want to briefly tell you the workflows of the project. Basically, we have 2 workflows. This is the phase 1, what you are seeing, with the immediate response to already infected population by using safe and man drugs. So this is a part that is based on drug repurposing. So we are doing HPC screening in silico, thanks to the supercomputers working with us from Europe. And we are identifying already drugs and active molecules against the coronavirus. So we, after the screening in silico, we have the experimental validation and the identification of the inhibitors, and we are going fast to the clinical trials. The phase 2 workflow is the de novo chemical space approach. So we are screening billions of molecules, oligopeptides, and other molecules coming from our partners and some very large pharma corporations for doing the world's biggest in silico screening. As you can see, the supercomputers working with us are ENI, Cineca, the Barcelona Supercomputing Center, and the Julis Center. Also here we have, of course, the experimental validation, then the finding of inhibitors, the preclinical proof of concept, the toxicology, and the clinical trials. Last July, we announced the finding of a molecule that is a drug already used for osteoporosis. The molecule is raloxifene. This was an announcement from the consortium Escalate for COV, but at the same time from the European Commission. And we are going now through the second phase of the project. Here you have the logo and the names of the institute and research centers working with us. The coordinating member is Dumpe Pharmaceuticals from Italy, and so there are represented many countries from Europe. Next slide. At the same time, we are looking at the collaboration from many companies in Europe and I would say internationally. So here you have some of the companies that are supporting us, also providing molecules and drugs potentially to be screened with the supercomputers. And in the next slide, Yes, these are the core of the project. The 4 supercomputers running today for the project, HPC5 from Eni, Mare Nostrum from Barcelona, Marconi 100 from Cineca, and the Eureka from Julis Center in Germany. So this is very briefly the project we are working on, and I think that really this is a showcase of what artificial intelligence and high-performance computing can do with digital health through personalized medicine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Silvano. This is quite interesting and very timely to learn more on what you're doing in this project. This is very good. I would like maybe to use, before moving to our next panelist, to ask our technical team if they could share the results of the first Slido. And also I would like to, so let's see. So this is what type of organization are you representing? So 22% pharmaceutical, others 22%, NGO 19%, healthcare professional organizations 11%, medical device industry 11%, academia 7%. 4%. So as you can see here, that is quite a mixture, which is quite good, a mixture of multi-stakeholder. That's very good. I don't know if the technical team is able to show or whether you have launched the Slido number 2 or whether it will come later on. So maybe later on, sorry, I'm just checking. So look, without any further, thank you very much anyway. So it sounds like, yes, so I see the numbers continue to evolve a little bit, so that would be very nice. That is highly appreciated. Thank you so much, technical team, for showing that. I suggest, without any further, to move to our next speaker, Godze, representing the patient voice. Godze, thank you very much for being with us. And please activate your camera and say next when you want to have the technical team moving to next slide. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nicole.
Maybe just, sorry, Godze, just I would like to insist for those who would like to actively participate into the Slido that you need to use the hashtag time for action in order to gain your input. Thank you so much. Thank you, Godze.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you. Hello, everybody. I would like to first just maybe start with very briefly about European Patients Forum. It's great to be here as a representative of my organization. Most of you may already know about EPF, but just in a nutshell, I would like to specifically mention about our vision and mission. Because all patients, we believe, with chronic conditions in Europe have equal access to high-quality, patient-centered health and related care. So this is our general vision. Sorry, can we pass to the next slide, please? Sorry. Thanks. So our mission is to be collective, influential patient voice in European health and related policies and driving force to advance patient empowerment and patient access in Europe. In that context, that's the reason why the call for action from EU Coalition today relates very closely with our strategy at EPF. Next slide, please. So as EPF, we have also our response to the current situation and everything that's happening actually at the EU level and at the digital level. The first one is, of course, the European Health Data Space and e-health in general. So we believe as EPF, a patient-centered European health space and e-health is a must, is fundamental. And considering the peculiarity of the health sector and its specific challenges right now, adopting a sector-specific approach on healthcare and data is very important. A connected and interoperable data space could prove invaluable for future research as well. So then what do we need? So firstly, we need an appropriate framework that ensures health literacy, data control and access, empowerment to patients, very important, specific data protection provisions to patients. These are the very key starts for a very good framework to be in place. And of course, a very strong and harmonized infrastructures and enhanced interoperability for safe health data flow throughout all Europe is also one of the key things. We keep on saying maybe the same thing, but we believe the more we say, the more it will be heard and the more it will be possible is learning from national and European best practices and projects is also very key. Addressing the risk of potential inequalities with across member states, taking into consideration there is even a bigger divide when it comes to digital. And then, well, of course, it's meaningful involvement. We keep on saying and advocating the same thing, involving patients from the very beginning. And such an inclusive governance structure will always make us build a better capacity, and building the capacity of patients will build the capacity of the whole ecosystem. And of course, when we move to the ethical framework for artificial intelligence, this is something very new as well for us as EPF. And there we would like to emphasize the importance of transparency, effective and sustainable, well-coordinated Europe about the AI. Because when we're talking about trust, these are the very fundamental first steps to take. And then boosting skills and digital health literacy, of course, and preconditions to deploy AI. These are the key elements all over Europe, every European level. We need to increase the health literacy of patients so that actually people can understand what they're contributing to and what they're part of. In that aspect, we also, as EPF, have many projects that are running, but also initiatives like Data Phase Live that is there to increase the understanding and the awareness of patients and patient organizations about responsible health data sharing. And then, of course, we need to define the risk of AI applications. That's very important. The safety, the ethical, everything has to be out there for patients to be able to access, ask questions, and discuss in multi-stakeholder environments like these. And also, fit-for-purpose regulatory frameworks are the key to increase trust on AI. So when there are good regulatory frameworks, we know that everything can move more transparently and trust can be built easier. So I would not make it much longer than that. If we can move to the next slide, please. Just for us, it's very important at EPF for patient-centered healthcare, we can move to the particularly healthcare, so we can all together build this together. So it's not putting the patient in the center of healthcare, but building this all together is the key message I would like to give right now. Thank you all for your attention. I think we'll have more discussions after the presentations. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jose, for your intervention. Highly appreciated as patient voice remains very important. We are a little bit behind schedule, but we have some time, so I suggest we will move now to Marcus Zimmermann, who's going to give us an industry voice. And I propose to the technical team that we launch the Slido on the European Health Data Space after Marcus has finished his speech. Thank you so much, Marcus, for being with us.
Thanks, Michelle.
And please, Marcus, yes, please activate your camera and say next when you want the team to move. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction, Nicole. Good day to all of you. I'm presenting COSIA. COSIA is the European Non-Profit Trade Association, representing the medical and the health ICT or digital health industry. And my short presentation may be pretty much a bit different just in terms of graphics, but I just can't conquer what Gauss is at and you see that. We have the same very strong message, what our priorities are, pretty much along the lines which you most likely hear all the time again and again. So we have two focus areas within our trade association, and this is about the value in health. So it is not value-based healthcare. This is a short but important difference. And digital health. On the value of health, it is really important to outline from the technology we can bring. It is not that we are running technology, and it's so important for us, the technology is how we convert the technology into patient benefits and patient outcomes. And this is what it's all about. And of course, there's also a cost associated with that one. But primarily we do that to the benefit of the patients. And the same is for digital health. I mean, before the pandemic, there was a lot of discussions. Is it appropriate? How do we establish it? For instance, as one example, remote monitoring. During what we experience right now, there is no longer a question to that one. It is maybe also the new normal, how that will look like. So this is also one of the key areas we are looking into. Can you get to the next one? So therefore, I'm from the COSIA's point of view, we have three major priorities, which I think is not so surprising that these are the ones, and they are not isolated. They are pretty much interconnected to each other. It was already said, but Jerry and mentioned, there is the European, and by others, there's the European health data space is important. Why is that? First of all, I mean, there's a lot of companies and industries who can do some specific data-driven projects with customers, but primarily the algorithm to be built, for instance, based on this data will not be mature enough because maybe the institution doesn't deliver enough cases to make the algorithm robust and safe and mature. So opening up that space not only to maybe the bigger ones on the industry scope, but also to the very focused small, medium enterprises who have gorgeous ideas, but they're lacking to get access to the data, and algorithm development can't be done without. This is something which is so much needed to get us there in a very clear and rigorous trade framework so that we can all benefit from there. There's other geographies in the world who are doing that with a large pace and speed, and we really need that kind of governance and framework to make it happen. So it's really, really important to get us there so that we can test and develop the algorithm and deploy it fast and at scale to whatever purpose the use case is. Similar with that is, and that was also mentioned by Gotze and others, is interoperability. It is not a priority for now, it is a priority for years, and it will continue to be a priority for years. It starts with the smaller hospital where the patient episode starts, and it goes beyond national in cross-EU border EHR data exchange. So even that framework needs to be very, very rigorously followed up, because if we do not get the longitudinal information of that patient, there is no big and great mature algorithm. So we need the data points coming from all of the different systems. And of course, we know that that has grown, and this is also kind of a challenge to get that data all across together. But we need to start somewhere, and we haven't started already for years, but it's continuing to be really, really important on all levels to make the data also come into action, and work with that. And this is one of the core second priority. And the third one, which is linked to that one, if you go one slide further up or down, wherever, the next slide, please. You go to the next slide, please. Thank you. And the third one is what I already mentioned is artificial intelligence. Yeah, as I said, to run artificial intelligence doesn't make sense if you have the health data space in place. And to get the health data space in place, you need the data of the longitudinal patients. And of course, AI is something where there is maybe a little bit of mistrust, or because it's new and it seemed to be, oh, there's not a human behind. Yeah, the algorithm is purely coded by humans. But it is, I can understand that in deep neural networks it's really hard to understand, hey, how does the algorithm come to that or that conclusion? Yeah. So of course it really needs a robust, again, legal framework, and it needs a clear ethical framework. Yeah. It needs a lot of trust. It needs a lot of multi-stakeholder perspective to get it right. But it has great potential to improve. And again, to improve the ability of physicians to make a clinical decision. It is never, ever something to replace. It's always to support them because it's the physician who makes the decision. So making awareness and what can be done with that is also one of our core interests. And if you flip to the next slide, and with that, I would like to close. You can all find that on the COSIA website, as you can find the priorities with certain reference and information and artifacts we built. But we said, okay, why not bring several of the use cases onto our website to give you the overview and the ability to look into and to see that this is not just a proof of concept or a test. It's already in place. It has helped to detect really already the COVID cases in the pandemic with these kind of algorithms. And with that, I would like to close and happy to take any question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marcus, for being here with us again. We will start immediately now a panel discussion. And I would like the panelists to activate your camera. Kerry, Silvano, Godse, Marcus, and would like to have also the technical team to launch the Slido on Health Data Space at the same time as we talk. And I wanted to have some panel discussion between yourselves on Health Data Space. Basically, while the Slido is running, just what do you consider? So I don't know, Silvano, if or Kerry, just to explain what you think that is the priority from a clinician standpoint.
Yeah, if I can start, Nicole.
Yes.
I want just to say that, of course, I agree with what the audience is saying with this slide number 1. So the defining of a clear data governance framework. So of course this is essential. So because I'm not a politician, so I can give you just the view of the science and from the scientific point of view. And from the point of view of what we are working on today with Escalate for COV and other projects. So we know that there is a big problem implementing artificial intelligence and data science at international level. And especially if you want to go through also the discussion with the regulatory bodies that have to accept some new pathway for the health management and again implementation of artificial intelligence. The data governance framework, a clear data governance framework, unique at the international level, is essential. So that's what I can say.
Thank you very much. Any other panelists willing to express an opinion? Kerry.
Yes, well, I mean, just so for me, the European Health Data Space, it's like a jigsaw puzzle, and we have to make progress on a number of fronts at the same time if we're going to have something useful and usable at the end of the day. And of course, we're quite early on in the process. I mean, it was only really just before COVID that the Commission created this as a new objective. But I think, simultaneously we have to, I would agree, make progress indeed on the governance, which is why the Commission is shortly going to come forward with something along these lines, the Data Governance Act, which will look at these issues in relation to different health data, different data spaces. But also, I mean, at the same time, you need the data. The data it needs to be there. So we need at the same time to lay the foundation in terms of developing the data, which means putting in the work on the interoperability, which means, and in terms of the linkages across, well, not only cross-border, but I mean, that's the part that we're mostly involved in, but I know for member states as well, there's making the linkages within member states. So then you need to look at, the infrastructure that can be trusted by design, and at the same time, the skills and literacy. So I think you have to look at it on these sort of 5 or 6 key dimensions simultaneously, and also to think about the moment in time where we are right now, which is the beginning of a new spending program and potential for new resources to come online from next year. So I think a kind of process priority would then be to start thinking about, how can we, what is the need for my particular organisation, and how can we, access funds that I need to do these tasks over the coming years.
Yeah, Nicole, and Kerry and
yes,
I may add another perspective or another layer on top of that. Yeah, as long as we focus on getting the framework and the access to the data and the data right, I think at the same token we need to think about on professorship, so on education in the member states to develop the domain of artificial intelligence. Yeah, this is. I mean, we are in a fight for resources, yeah, and it's even for our industry, it's pretty hard to get them and to keep them because they are hired away with. I don't want to reference the salaries, but it's not easy to keep them because they're very rare sources. And I think we also need to invest in the member states in these kind of educational skill set that people are there who can work with the data, yeah, wherever they are needed. I would also strongly emphasize on that part.
Thank you, Marcus. Good.
I think everything has been shared, and also during the presentation, as I mentioned, I don't know if you can hear me well.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. Just the framework in everything is so important. Actually, when we talk about trust as well, when there is a right framework, it's easier to build the trust as well. So I would like to emphasize that again. It's a good infrastructure, it's a good framework to bring trust, and trust bring actually more cooperation. That will be it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Gauthier. I would suggest that while moving into panel conversation, to have also your perspective with regards to interoperability. That was the second recommendation. So, and I would like the team to also launch the Slido on interoperability, where what is the best way to scale up and implement the e-health interoperability? Is it by drawing up national strategies, an action plan, or by defining technical specification in procurement, or by prioritizing implementation that enable cross-border EHR exchange? Again, you have 2 choices out of the 3 possibilities, and maybe here, who would like from the panel to go on? I believe maybe, Kerry, you mentioned, of course, the EHR project. Of course, that has also a link with a cross-border EHRs. Would you like to say a little bit more what's going on there with the work done at the member state level?
Yes, of course. So, I mean, the XDL project, then it is a critical step because we know how very labour-intensive this work is. So this will take forward directly this first set of priorities that came out of the Commission recommendation on European Electronic Health Record Exchange. But we know that we're just at the beginning of this process, that the ambition. I mean, the electronic health record. There's a great deal of data, and we need to continue to look within other kinds of data as well for interoperable, for technical specifications. And this is something else which will, of course, need investment coming online to see these tools taken up. And one thing I want to draw your attention to is I think it will need monitoring as well across the European landscape with the member states. And we've just launched a survey this year where we're looking at a baseline for member states' current picture for interoperability, the extent to which they're using particular specifications, the extent to which their legislative picture is suitable, is amenable to interoperability. So we hope to have a set of indicators that will give us a clue, where there needs to be more investment across the EU health landscape. I think this is very important.
Thank you very much, Thierry, for mentioning this. Interoperability has been, Marcus, as you said, something that has not been new, that has never taken off, unfortunately, or not at the speed where we would need. Would you like to give an opinion from? Because I believe technology is a tool, but on the other hand, interoperability is also a matter where political people and also the public authorities needed to do more. What's your opinion?
No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, so one example would be from a procurement point of view. So we in general, yeah, it should not be allowed to, let's say, procure health ICT in a sense, or digital health in a sense that there is not well known and the existing standards in place. Yeah, as we've seen here from the Slido that we need to think really beyond our own organization, community, national. We really need to think cross EU. So I think there should be a really very strict follow-up to the standards and the standardization, and that's why a continuous priority is not a standard, but it's developing standards. I know that is not easy always to really follow in time, but it's really from a procurement point of view. So if there's procurement, there should be no chance to have any propriety or whatsoever standard. Yeah. And I think we should further also outline the benefits of interoperability. So there should be really good national projects, and there is, of course, a lot where you can really outline what has been achieved while there is interoperability in place. I think that would be two axes I would strongly emphasize.
Thank you, Marcus. Silvano or Gauthier, any comment on this before we move into artificial intelligence, which is still a very important topic?
I think we can move forward. I wouldn't add anything. Thank you.
Yeah. So for me also, so I have nothing to say more. What said also Marcus that I follow very well, so I agree with it.
Excellent. So let's then go to the third Slido we push together that is on artificial intelligence, which is a very important topic, and how can we increase trust in the potential of artificial intelligence? Is it by building a strong ethical framework? Is it by establishing a structural multi-stakeholder dialogue, or by establishing or by building or by ensuring strong governance rules on the use of health data driven by public authorities? Sounds like the numbers are popping up. Please, this is also very important for us to have that information from the participants so that we get an understanding on what is important for you. And so who would like from the panel to say first something on AI? Maybe, I don't know, Gauthier, because I know it's a very sensitive matter.
Absolutely, Nicole. Yes, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about this. Actually, at EPF, we recently had a survey about artificial intelligence that we shared with our members. Because it's very important for us to understand what trust in AI means, what AI means, what do they understand of AI was the baseline. We wanted to figure first out our members, what are their expectations also from us when it comes to capacity building, when it comes to empowering them with the knowledge. So at this point, we are still in the process of our survey, but it was very fundamental for us to be able to go through this survey before we take any actions further. As we all know, artificial intelligence, even maybe 15 years ago, was a movie for us. And it's still the case for many people, and our patients and public is really starting to learn. And if we do not want to scare the public and the patient communities, we need to take baby steps and ask them the right questions and in the right processes we're going through. So it's really fundamental for us to involve patients and increase their understanding about the concept of artificial intelligence already will have a tremendous impact on building mutual trust, I think. Yes. Can't hear you, Nicole. I think.
So, but don't you think that there is something interesting, where we are very sensitive about, sharing patient data on one end. On the other hand, you have Facebook and, Twitter accounts where people can share personal data very easily in a way. So
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And when we talk about actually patients sharing their own data in our previous survey, we also realized that actually 85% to 90% of our participants said they are happy to share their health data. They do not have any problem in sharing health data if they have been involved in the process and they know what has been done with their data. So they would like to be informed, and they would like to also decide on what happens in their secondaries of health data. But it was quite an interesting outcome for us as well to see that actually patients are willing to share their data. They just like to know what's happening with their data, and that the transparency is kept from the beginning till the end of the whole process.
Yes, thank you. Anybody else from the panelists? And while thanks very much for those having answered the slide, that is quite some important thing. We are also going to finish in 6 minutes, but I wanted to ask also the technical team whether they have received any questions. And while we are doing this, maybe on AI, Silvano or Kerry, would you like to add anything more? Specifically, maybe Silvano, in the context of COVID-19, is there any challenges, or do you see this more as an opportunity?
Yeah, thank you, Nicole, for this question. So, of course, I think that, and you have very clear the importance of artificial intelligence when we are talking about drug discovery. So, how can I say, every time we try to find a new miracle, that is a new medicine. So we have to challenge with a very big complexity that is the nature. And countering this complexity when we are designing a new medicine. So we need, of course, the best computing resources and the potentiality of artificial intelligence today. So answering also the question, so the multi-stakeholders collaboration is extremely important in order to entrust the use of artificial intelligence. And what I can say more is that there are different levels of the discussion with the multi-stakeholders. Of course, the patient association involvement, the national government, but the regulatory bodies is probably the first step after the discovery, if we want to show also the potentiality of artificial intelligence in healthcare. And for me, healthcare now is drug discovery, so new medicine.
You may have seen through Marcus, there are already evidence and best practices that we decided to share on artificial intelligence. I have 3 questions that were coming from the participants. One was where is it? Yes, thank you very much for showing again. Question for you, Gauthier. Has the EPF got a strategy to raise the voice of patients at subnational level, and especially on digital health, as many of the implementations and competencies are at local and regional level?
Okay, let me say very short to try and summarize it maybe. Yes, as EPF, actually for our next strategic plan, we have very high involvement in digital health, mostly with capacity building aspects of our work. And also EU projects level, we're trying to also get involved so that patients, organizations and patients' voice can be part of also these EU projects. Also, we are doing already series of webinars for our members, trying to increase their understanding and awareness about digital health. So we are in the process. It's just beginning, but we are definitely taking care of our membership so that they can take care of their own memberships and their national level, so we can make a chain of capacity building in that aspect. I hope it answers the question. Can't hear you, Nicole.
Sorry, I did myself. Sorry, thanks for your input, and I'm sure we will be able to continue to raise and to connect with you to know more the patient voice. There was a second question, quite important as well, GDPR interpretation by different governments and stakeholders, blocking some data share. So I was wondering, Thierry, whether you have, because this is a real challenge even for our industry, do you have anything to say on that?
Only to be clear that we know that there is more thinking that needs to be done around the secondary use of data, and that has been an interest of the Commission and has been carrying out a survey to this effect. How is this perceived? How can we and to lay the groundwork for the development of a common approach? So of course clarity is essential, I think, and that goes for the AI discussion as well. When we put something in place, a governance framework, it's absolutely essential that the actors sur place will understand what they have to do to be within the law. Otherwise, actions don't continue. So we're aware that on a secondary use, certainly that this is an issue, and this is why we're putting in place some steps that we hope will address it by the end of the year.
So more food for thought. Thank you so much, Thierry. There was another question, in fact, more what is the added value of regions? But I believe we will be short in time in answering this. Did Silvano or Marcus would like to say a few last words before we launch a slide?
Yeah, for me, it's hard to understand what the specific question is referring to.
The question was, what is the added value of regions?
In what regards? I mean,
with regards to, I think, patient data, or
that was. I don't know whether this was the question. So.
Yeah.
How to answer?
No problem. The question is quite it's a very broad question. I would suggest, as it is 29, I understood the technical team would like to launch and ask the participants to join the plenary, but launch, describe in one word what you would like this breakout session to achieve in terms of policy action. So one word, if you would have to put one word in the Slido, what would it be? So that would be very interesting to have the audience here coming in and putting some words into the Slido. And those will be simulated words that will come. So we see the first health, yeah, coming in. Of course, implementation is very important. Multi-stakeholder dialogue, patient-centered approach, trust. Don't be shy. Patient-centered seems to be justice barrier. I see cohesive, so cohesion. Dialogue, transparency again. But the one big winner seems to be patient-centered. So I believe technical team, if you are, I believe you allow me, I would like to thank very much all the panelists for being with us. It's been a very great session. Of course, we are missing the networking, but I believe we had a very good panelists here with us today. So big thanks to everyone. And let's move then to the plenary session. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Stay healthy. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.